Welcome, everybody. Again, I want to thank you all for bearing with me as I go through my grief over the loss of my life that happened Tuesday, um, August 20th. It's been rough. Again, this is late August and September is upon us here in Colorado, and the weather changes and kind of schizophrenic in a way. It was really chilly this morning, and then you can't really do much. You have to let the house cool down. It's going to get warm today and sunny, and tomorrow a little warmer in the upper 80s, which is nice. And tomorrow is the funeral, and that is going to be rough on me. So keep me in your prayers. And today at 3:30 to or 5 is the viewing day, or the viewing time today, where people can go in and view her at the V Goot Funeral Home. In Loveland, Colorado. It's 1616 North Lincoln Lane in Loveland, Colorado. And 80538, that's the address. If you live in the Colorado area, you're more than welcome to come by. I have family here that are coming in, and a lot of them arrived last night. So I'm rather busy with that and getting ready to, um, have go over and visit and stuff like that, and get out of the house for a bit because I need to. It's kind of hard, and I have a friend of mine is going to stay overnight again. Last night I think my brother-in-law and his wife coming over and staying, and and hopefully I just pray next week I can manage. I do have some friends, dear friends from South Dakota coming down next week or sometime. My mind's a blur. I type things wrong. And it's hard for me to think sometimes. So just keep me in prayer, and as I move on. It's rather sad to take this jacket off, I guess. It's just sad, tragic in a way. I don't think I'm mad at God or anything like that. It's just that, I trust God's faithfulness. I learned to trust the Lord's faithfulness in all things. If I think about it, my wife always thought I would be the one to go first. I don't think she could handle this. I really don't. I really don't think she could handle it. This is too much for anyone to bear, and I'm learning a lot from it. But talking to you and helping to grieve, and you guys, can join in. You watch when I come on. I'm coming on whenever I can. Because later tonight I may come on after midnight. I don't know, but we'll see how it goes. Then the funeral. I can't remember the time of the funeral either. I think I don't. Wow. I have my mind. How it's weird when you suffer loss like this. You can't remember things and everything, and it's hard to drive around town. I'm able to do that now and drive, but it's hard because everywhere you go is little memories of things we did together. I want to go back and exercise, but if I go out and walk in the neighborhood, it's like I can't. There she is. um, I just don't it's just the way it is. So I was pondering, what could I share today, and what did I learn? And I just want to share this with you before I got to kind of get myself a little um, prepared here. Hold on, folks. I want to just shut this off for a second, and I'll be right. I'm right here. I'm just muting my microphone so I can take care of my eyes and nose real quick. One thing you do is you cry a lot. I was wailing this morning. Let me tell you. Um, this is all a part of life, and it's a bitter part of life um, that everybody will face sometime. Either at the receiving end of this, or you'll be a survivor of it and have to go through things. I mean, seen the death of my wife's parents, seen my death of my parents, and nothing is like this with your spouse, especially when you really love each other. Now we joke around and all these things about being married and everything, but when you really love each other, it really hurts. It's a part of you is missing. And everyone who's a widower or a widow has mentioned these things to me, and I thank you for your advice and consolation and your words of encouragement. And I need all I can get. I really don't have my side of the family anymore, really. I mean, they're too far away. There's no way. A lot of them live in Virginia, the East Coast area, too far away, and I wouldn't expect them to come. My sister's 500 miles. I don't expect to see her at all in any of this because, it's just too far to drive. When I saw my mom, I constantly drove back and forth, and it wore out the car. Second car got blew out the back seal of it. And I'm driving. I can't remember where I was. Oh yeah, I was going to the bookstore, and the rear cooling system blew out of the Toyota Camry. We had a 2003 Toyota Camry, and it was a defect in the engine, not no longer covered by warranty, and it's old and it cracked and unrepairable. So I lost most of my traveling after that, and so it just been just the way it is. But but nothing compares to what you go through. I do have my wife's side of the family coming, and I have you all, and I have your prayers and support. And this is what the church is about, folks, is to help people, when we grieve, laugh with those who laugh, mourn with those who mourn. I understand that better now, and I hope I can be a better example of that next time someone's going through that time. So I asked the Lord, how did you get through it the other day? How do you do this? And he gave me a little insight about how it pleased the Father to see Jesus go to the cross and pay the price of our sins as our atoning sacrifice. And when and I start praying to the Father, said, Heavenly Father, how did you handle doing this? It was necessary. When I was praying that, and when I was seeking that, it hit me. You know, it was almost like my wife is bringing redemption. And keep praying for a family that this redemption in the family could be complete. I've never seen God move like this in a broken family. That's tragic, loss and how much they really liked her and all the things she'd done for her that she had no clue of, and how she impacted their lives. It's just incredible. So I understand. So how did you get through it, Father? And I didn't really get an answer other than it had to be done. And then I realized that he he gives us strength during this time, and he gives us the wisdom. You may not understand it, and I still don't understand why all of a sudden, but I do know my wife did not want to go through what she saw coming down the pike. A friend of mine who should be here visiting next week from South Dakota, him and his wife are coming, and got received a little document from them. They'll probably hit the interwaves, and probably be on alternative media because other places will block it off. It is a 1984 thing from the USSR, former Soviet Union, of a certain individual who it will be, who Mr. 47 is running against, was a member of the Commissol, the Communist Party. Her dad was a devout communist as well, so it all fits. Has her picture there. her younger picture and all that. So that's telling. The the USSR of California is a driving force in turning America into a new USSR. That's exactly what they're gunning for. It lines up with the occult world, and I haven't been able to share that yet because of all this, but I will. I'll share how that fits because I was on part 4 or 5 of the series. I had to do that just as the background of what you can understand of how these people think and how the occult world actually operates, so you can do warfare against it more effectively. So, with that, just a little tidbit of information. I told my wife, you know, she stop watching the news, stop watching this stuff. She did for a while and went back to it. She was petrified of being left behind and left alone to face this that's coming. And I thought we would face it together, you know. And but God knows best. I really, really do. He knows best, and He spared her from seeing what's about ready to happen in our world as Bible prophecy unfolds. The Bible does say men's hearts failing for fear of the expectation of those things that are about to befall us. Jesus spoke that. That's true. You might feel your own heart feeling trepidation and stuff. You might seeing a lot of strong Christian people, you know, some remaining, but others are being taken, loved ones taken like this, and you're wondering why. Just maybe, possibly, he's sparing them of something. And he ordained us as survivors to continue on. So, as the father wept at my having a son come as a sin sacrifice and bear the sins of many who do not deserve it because of his great love toward us that none of us deserved, it was necessary to crush his son. And sometimes this may not make sense to you. We feel crushed by these things. But this sounds weird, but I understand that it's necessary because she really did not want to go through this. The reason why was she was a rape survivor. I married her. I did not know this, and I saw the report. I kept this secret out of respect. She did not want me to tell anybody this. Not at all. Until, you know, now she's gone and I can tell. In our marriage, how it began, you know, it was a little, the first 3 years, a little rough, like all marriages are, but we loved each other. That's the key. When she told me what happened, I had a little more understanding. I also had my upbringing, how my dad taught me about being marriage and saw it through my parents' example. Never let the sun go down on your wrath, work things out. But sometimes, you know, it doesn't always work out that way, but you still learn how to work it out. And always, your wife is always right. Good lesson. And when she finally makes up her mind that she messed up, she'll come and apologize to you. Yep, very, very good advice. I found all that out thanks to my dad's advice. So, never pressure your wife, never force your wife to do anything. Cherish her, honor her, respect her, show her love, and she will show love in return. Simple advice that my dad gave me before our wedding day, and I've been I watched my own parents do this. So I understand that. I don't understand, you know, how, why, and all this stuff happened because this imaginary thing that happened in 2020 to 2022 there that made a lot of people imaginary ill and get this little pinprick in their thumbnail, um, cause this type of thing both ways, with or without the pinprick, happens, but more prevalent if you've been pinpricked through the fingernail. You will most likely this will happen. This is why you're seeing sudden death of the same thing, a lethal heart arrhythmia or a lethal heart attack or a lethal arrhythmia. It's, if it runs in families, it's primarily, and it can happen And if you have no history of it, it could surprise you. But as far as I know, no family member has ever noted anybody in their entire history have ever dropped like this. Usually, the type of heart failure they have is from um, um, bad diet, eating the 1924, 30, 1945 diet. The Depression era diet, and just a bad diet, and you get congestive heart failure that way, and all those unhealthy things can happen. But that's normal. That's not a normal thing, but that's how you usually go. But this type of lethal arrhythmia, and and my wife was extremely healthy. It seems to hit extremely healthy people who like to run and are athletic, like my wife is. She always will be to me, even though she's gone. I say is. She she got that heart attack, dropped. I didn't know it. First thought she was stung by a bee, and I'm still traumatized by closing her eyes. I'm coming to terms with that. Then doing chest compression for 10 minutes, and then seeing everything they did, trying to save her life. Just really traumatizing. And the coldness of the night that clamped down on you. It's just, but I understand why why Jesus wept in the garden. He didn't want to go do this either, but he did it for us. It was necessary so that maybe somebody can wake up and see the reality that life is short. And so I was pondering all that, and then I came and this verse dropped in me. And I've preached on this before, but never with an impact like this. It's Revelation 21, verse 3 and 4. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. In this chapter, John sees the new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Listen to these words. What's saying here? And take comfort in these if you lost a spouse or someone dear, very dear to you. Verse 4. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. Why is it called the wedding supper? There's no more death, no more crying over the loss of your spouse. Some things are necessary that we may not understand, don't fully grasp. And we live in a fallen world, and bad things happen. We eat bad diets, whatever. But this ends. This ends. And it dawned on me that's why we're the bride of Christ. We're no more dying, no more suffering. Watching a loved one go through cancer, no more of that. No more tears of loss of a child. And God will be with us, wipe the tears away from our eyes. There'll be no more death, no more dying, no more sin, nor sorrow, nor crying like I was crying this morning. No more hole in the heart, no more coming to an empty house. Because we are part of a great spiritual war that helps to defeat the foe once and for all in the most far just manner that is beyond our pea brains to comprehend. Paul writes that we are in a spiritual war. As soon as we got born again, we are in God's army. Everyone has a role to play, and there's casualties. Okay? But when I came from my after death experience as well as my seeing heaven and all that later on, and you have to, talking about that too and going over that. I came back with that knowledge of how, over time, like God spoke through me from what happened to teach me this, what I shared already, that how with the spiritual war that God is engaged in a spiritual war. It's fought like no other war, and it involves the devil trying to pit God's character traits against each other because the devil knows he's a God of the living. He will not exterminate someone into a non-existent state. And God is just. He keeps his word. And what the devil's trying to do is pit his words, his own nature, God's own nature and character against each other in order to overthrow his throne and exalt his throne above God's. Okay? So you have to be very smart, very clever to thwart that and stack a bunch of evidence up, as well as necessary to allow us to learn the same lesson. Why? So we don't ever rebel again. We know the price of suffering. We know the price of crying, weeping, seeing disease affecting people out of the blue, suffering. And some people, like I myself did when I was running around as an atheist and agnostic atheist and running from God, saying how unfair he is. I don't say that no more. He's absolutely fair, and he's just beyond our comprehension. In fact, I thank him for that. I see it more now than I ever have before. Again, God speaks through our experiences, reveals these things to us. So that's what I learned today. I still have that verse ringing in my ears. Verse 5, and then he sat on the throne and said, behold, I shall make all things new. And he said to me, write these words, for they are true. For the words, okay. And he said to me, write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And I'll give of the fountain of water of life freely to him who thirsts. He who overcomes shall inherit all things, and I'll be his God, and he shall be my son. This is ministry of reconciliation. That means much more to me than it did before this happened. I got an understanding of it. I really do. Hope you just learn something from me, because I'm trying to help you as well from what I learn, and also you can share in my going through this grieving process. He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Wow. I'll give him the fountain of the water life freely to him who thirsts. I'm thirsty, aren't you? If you're thirsty, come to the water, you will not be denied, as the old hymn says. He who overcomes shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, he shall be my son. There is a multitude of warehouse of information in that word overcomes in this circumstance. You'll overcome. Overcome the stuff thrown at you in life, like the passing of a loved one, a child. Overcome the enemy and endure persecution. Overcome when you are blessed, so you don't get a swell head and think it's all about you. I did a little ad hoc teaching on the gifts of the Spirit. Reasons why we don't see the gifts of the Spirit and flow like we normally would do is that people get a hold of them and they make dumb idols out of them. Just want you to think about that, and the people start getting all the glory for them. So I hope you can understand that. You have to overcome. The 7 churches mentioned in Revelation chapter 2 and 3, we all are mentioned that they have to overcome whatever it is they got to overcome at that period of time. The 5 apostatizing ones have to overcome and repent from what they are doing. God means business, folks. We play tiddlywinks and try to figure out a way to get out of it. Well, it works, so I can still practice occult stuff in the church. I'm sorry, if I'm a messenger of the Lord, so be it. If I'm not, you can write me off and say I'm crazy. I'm not trying to bash you into the ground. I just know that you are misled. So I have a lot of grace towards you that other people would not. I also know that you can be led astray very easily. You can be fooled in thinking stuff that is taught is true, and you can be a teacher of it for years and not even realize you're doing it. You think it's the way to go. Then you get proud about it, and but you never realize the iniquity in your heart and what's actually transpiring. And have the Lord do a deep soul search. He wants you back. Like I said, about 95 of the people in the straying churches are naive about it. There's, the 5% in leadership know what they're doing, but most of them, and again, 95% of that leadership have no clue. They're going along with the ride. They do not understand how the occult world initiates, how it deceives, how it tricks. They don't understand that. And maybe, I'm just saying this is possibly, I'm always pondering, Lord, why'd you have me come back? I mean, people don't seem to listen to me, you know, but I stand amazed when I do all the calculations and people say, you've been around doing this and how many people, was reached by an unknown person like me is astounding. I don't have, I don't have hardly any money, uh, limited income. I have a computer and an internet. I've been basically all over the world on the internet, but I preached, film clips, docudrama done on me. I've been on Christian TV several times. My testimony has reached lots of people. I'm amazed at how God used me. I did the jail ministry 10 years. And I still don't think I'm not a performer. I'm not a performer at all. You know, I want to do more. I owe Christ my life. I said that to him in the beanbag chair. I said, Lord, when I got saved, take me, I'm yours. I owe you my life. I mean, I owe him my life, man, because he really revealed to me what a wretch I was back then, and the Lord's working on me, so I'll be less of one now. It's called sanctification. And, well, multiplied millions of people, multiplied, not 10 or 50 or 100, multiplied millions. I had several numbers from professionals and from other sources that came to me, and I said, that can't possibly be true, that high of a number. You know, it, well, what it is what it is, because you can't really, if you go in a worldwide Christian ministry and interview there, you don't know. It goes all over the world. You don't know how many people really. It could be just a few 100,000, or something. But they do. They have a way to track it. So I don't. That's what they tell me. As well as radio stations, broadcasting, podcast. But I don't. I gotta still go. Not because I'm grieving, but this is what my wife would want me to do. She didn't want me to stop. I just wanted to say, the heck with it many times, to tell you the truth. So what's the use? You know, the world's getting darker. I've never seen it like this, and no one's paying attention, and nobody listens. Unless you sensationalize it and or something. And yeah, if you hear what I gotta say about the occult world and its workings, and you go, man, I know how to pray now. Yeah, you know what to watch out for. You'll see it. It won't do anything. So compound that with something I did, today, this morning, weeping and wailing. I decided just to get on the Amazon Prime, and um, that was a birthday gift from my mom. I told her to forget about it, then I ended up giving her money to pay her back a wad of cash a while back before she went, really, before she broke her hip. And she said, keep it. And so we battled back and forth, and I put it in her purse. She found it, put it back in my suitcase. This happened. This is my mom. She's a giver. Put it back, and I snuck it. I put it somewhere, and she called me on the phone. Brian, I told you, this is a present. Don't do this to me. It's a gift. Well, oh well. Okay. You know. So, so anyway, I'm paying for it now. And so, so So I'm watching Amazon Prime, so I said I might as well watch the season 2 of the Lord of the Rings series, the Rings of Power. I was absolutely shocked in the very beginning first scene. Everything that I told you in my occult series is right there in the beginning scene of that. The entire plan of the enemies laid out, and all through this thing. You will see it if you follow my series. This is how the occult world works. What the plan is. Uh, uh, Sauron, the character Sauron, is an archetype of Satan or Satan and how he works. And in part 2 and part 3, he talks about how he gets into your mind and plays tricks. That is enchantment. And so he enticed the this calamity, worldwide chaos, so that the people and the elves and the dwarves would get the rings of power. So the elves got theirs first, and they were in a what they call a conundrum. Should I do this? If we do it, we could, we can save our own people. We can save our nation. We can do this. And then the next scene is they had to make the elves kingdom. Not they got the elves kingdom saved, and then they come in at the dwarves, and now they're going to make the rings of power for men and the rings of power for dwarves, and one ring to bind them later. But they all are done. It's a soul to them that you're helping humanity. It's for the destruction of evil. And you see how good magic, white magic, is creating chaos in order to do this, to deceive people, the characters in this, to thinking they're doing a good thing. While you have the dark art people who, if you're following the series, they have Adar. Adar is a corrupt elf who's in charge of all the orcs. And he doesn't like Sauron, and 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 that's dark magic, and Satan figure here, Sauron, is white magic, and it's perfect. Talks just like Alice Bailey, just the same word, same thing. Best example of enchantment I've ever seen, ever done. This, and I'm looking at this, I gotta say, this series is over the top. I mean, if you know what's going on and understand this stuff, and you see, I see this in our society and world today. And I thank God that the Lord said the New Jerusalem is coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride for her husband. Instead of doing this silly little series on the rings of power, we're living in a spiritual war, using chaos to create a new order, just like Saron said in the beginning, the very first part of part 1 of season 2. Amazing, 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 amazing. And I'm glad the Lord's going to finally expose evil, just like Daniel prophesied, or he saw in a prophecy, that the courts were seated. We're going to be witnesses in this court against those who caused us harm, and the devils who caused it. We're going to testify against them. The courts were seated. We're going to be called to witness against some of these people. If they don't repent, we will. You cause the disease that, I'm not talking about human beings, I'm talking about spiritual entities. You brought this into the world, and this is why my loved one died. Check mark. You can't escape this, bud. You're going to the lake of fire. And then the devil is going to finally get his uppums too. False prophet and the Antichrist ain't escaping. The hordes of hell, the demonic entities, the fallen watchers, all the demons that roam the earth are going to be in the abyss and in the lake of fire forever. Okay? Then one day the Lord's going to make the new heavens and earth, and it's all over. No more war. We learned some valuable lessons by learning how to weep. I don't know if you hear what I'm saying to you, but that's what came to me today. I'm grieving. I'm heartbroken. I'm more worried about you guys than being feeling sorry for myself. I'm not having a feel sorry for me fest. I'm saying, how can I minister to you? You're watching my video, so I'm responsible. I come under a stricter judgment than most people to deal with what I have to teach and share with you than most. I understand that. That was my call to ministry. Don't you know that you're going to be under a stricter judgment? Yes. So I signed my name on the dotted line. Now, what else am I going to do? Lord, you brought me out of the miry pit of hell. Of Psalms chapter 40. I mean, I owe you my life. I learned something about God's grace that I can't even hardly articulate it. I see something about your great love that I can barely express. I like to see people get saved. I want to train, equip them. I want to get them on their way as best I possible. I want to spend the rest of my days doing that. Please, please, please do not abandon me. Just don't let me die on the vine. My wife was my biggest support. Then we lost our car and my ability to travel, and so I had to, not go so far, and I was been at home since with her. Now I understand why. That's honoring your wife, because she honored me all these years. Oh, you go. I'll go with you to Rapid City. I'll go here, but yeah. But go, you can go. And she's a rape survivor suffering from post-traumatic stress. Any noise in the house, she calls her the freak out. Yeah, that does. I understand rape survivors better now than anything, 'cause I lived with one. I loved her too, very much. Helped her get over that as much as I could. How many times did I get up at night? Oh, that's the neighbor shutting the door or the garage across the street. What's that creak? Well, it's the house is breathing and it creaked. We have wood floors. Uh, oh no, Brian, I'm tired. Oh, let's go to bed. I'm tired too. But my wife started chatting incessantly. I loved it. She's keeping me up. I said, you're just reading. It's just like listening to. You're telling me a bedtime story. Just keep talking. She get a little upset. Says, my feet are cold. Will you keep them warm? I won't get into the rest. That's too priceless for me. But I know I understand something. So maybe I can do what I can to prepare the rest of us for what's coming down the pike. How to recognize it, how to see it, and how to get through it. So I hope I can do that. Maybe you can pray that God will help me, give me the strength and the anointing and the unction to, and the ability to, and and doors open for me to be able to do this. Because I understand something. He who overcomes shall inherit all these things, and I'll be his God, and he shall be my son. Think about it. What do you have to overcome? However, those that are not saved or know Christ, in verse 8, but the cowardly, the unbelieving, the abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Go in Daniel about the courts are seated. You'll understand it. I just moved a little too close to the camera and knocked my camera out of focus with autofocus. We'll come back hopefully. But with that, I'm just going to go ahead and end it and let you think and ponder on that. Just like I was mulling over it this morning crying. The Lord spoke to my heart on that matter. So, not much ado. I'm just going to go ahead and end this and just This is the screenshot that I have. I chose it because of a beautiful photograph I took with my wife up in the snowy range. I don't know if I could ever hike this trail again by myself or even get on it. There's too many memories and everything. I got lots of pictures, and I have some of them on my screen too as well. And let me see if I can even bring some of those up. So with that, just bear with me for a second as I try to bring that up somehow. Okay, bring this up. I'm going to try this. I don't know. So I have to choose the background screen because I have some of these pictures up in the snowy range. Okay, there's one. Okay, in the snowy range, and I'm going to see if I can. I'm supposed to be able to do this. Let me see if I can get rid of myself. I can get rid of myself. I can't, but rid of myself totally. But there's. I'll get out of the way so you can see. That's okay. It's over this way. So I got to bend the wrong way. But over there is down there near this lake. You'll see this right about there is where I took that picture, going that direction. This is at the snowy range, past that over here where it says BW Melbourne. You'll see a little gray streak. That's the trail. This is about 11,000 some odd feet up here. It's just barely above tree line. Let me see if I can find a few more. I have any more of these here? Oh yes, I do. This is a little bit lower at the other end of it. Um, I think that's Lake Marie down at the far end. Another trail we would go up would be, let's see, this is hard. I got to mirror it. It's over this way or this way. Where is it? My hand's here, here. Okay, right up there is another trail that winds up that ridge, and you go up, and you go right up where my head is, and you go up the other way. There's two ways to go about it. You make a circuit out of it, and you got to go through a lot of boulder fields and all that to get up to the top. But that's the first time we went there. That's the way me and my wife went. I mean, I don't know, it was 93 or 2 or something. We went up there, and people told me about it. We walked around the whole thing, and yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful place. It really is. I have more pictures. Maybe I'll just make a little collage and show you what these are like. Oh, yeah, there's the picture again without all that stuff on it. And I can't get myself out of the way, but there you go. That nice, beautiful screenshot. And let's see, do I have any others I use as a background? I use them as background sometime. I'm looking. And nope, I don't have any more on that. Let me look a little bit closer. I'll go back to the screen. So that's the kind of thing that my wife and I did when we like to hike. So with that, I'm just going to show you this little screen. If you just pray and support, if you'd like to support, help with anything at all, in this trying time, all my information's there. If you need a prayer request, put it in the comments. I want people to start praying for each other, okay? Because you're part of the body of Christ, something you got to learn to do. With that, I'll head off to the live chat, and I'm going to close this out. And I'm just going to talk for a few minutes on the live chat. We have people on here now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, good morning, everybody. Okay. Someone mentioned let Shannon Ray Davis know he can send out prayer requests for you as well. He is how I found you 6 years ago. Last Monday I was on a show, so he did that and he did pray and he passed that on. I was able to do the show. I had another podcast scheduled with another person on Tuesday at 12 noon, but I could not do it. I was too broke by that time. I thought I could, but I did not have the strength to do it. So I want to rescheduling that one. something my wife wanted me to do, but I just could not do it. That's the way my wife was. I talked to her. She says, "Oh yeah, we'll work it out. What about this day, that day?" She made it happen. And Luke Donelli says, "Seeing the bad fruits of it now. Crazy how they brainwash so many people." Oh, and thank you for a great encouraging verse, brother. And Mr. Kenneth Andrew says, "Hey Brian, praying for you, partner. I'm learning from watching you grow through this. It's very valuable. Thank you. I got to minister to you. When I minister to other people and pour myself out, is how I get healed. I mean, I can't help it. It might sound selfish, but it helps. I'm in leadership, and most leaders suck it in, and you don't see them go through anything, so you don't know if they're human or not. How many of you can relate to that? I lead by example. I mean, my employment, I never wanted to be a supervisor. I never sought it. It found me. "Oh, would you like to be the crew chief here? Would you like to be supervisor here?" "Yeah, not really. Yeah. How much does it pay?" "A little more." "Oh, I'll take it. I got to earn my money." So, um, I worked with people. I led by example. Now I understood why they saw that. I got things done. That's the way my dad was. I learned it from him. He was a supervisor. He was a chief petty officer in the Navy. I mean, in World War II, hunting submarines in the Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean. His tour of duty was the American theater, but he was in Bermuda, he was in the Bahamas, he was in the Caribbean islands out there where some of the British uh, Caribbean islands were, or French or whatever, flying planes looking for submarines. Got Something happened. I'm not sure the whole story, but he got some piece of his plane embedded in his knee. It was through flak. I remember driving down the road when I was a little kid. We were going on vacation, and some big bugs hit the windshield, and he turned white as a ghost. I remember staring right at him in the back seat. A little kid standing there chewing on the back seat or something, just watching him. And my mom's going, "Bud, Bud, you're here. Bud, it's okay, Bud." And my dad's going, "Flack, flack, flack, flack." And he pulled off side of the road. He was white as a ghost. And I don't know what my dad saw. I know he got shrapnel in his knee, part of the plane. He always joked about it. He said when he hopped out of the plane, he said he could still walk. He denied himself a Purple Heart. It's just a scratch. So many years later, he's given his knee problem, so they took the metal out. I always wanted to find that. I knew it was in a safety deposit box, but for some reason, I never was permitted to go in there and see what was in there. And I wanted to see that shrapnel. That was valuable to me. But anyway, that's the way life turns. Don't know whatever happened to it because my mom passed, and I don't know whatever happened. So those type of things, yeah. So I learned to be that way. You lead by example because my dad was chief petty officer, flying in the back of the plane, dropping bombs on submarines. He had quite some whale stories. A lot of the submarines were not submarines but whales. You can tell because by the blood. Doesn't look like oil. He had a sense of humor, but I won't get into that. And the Greenpeace people would probably not like my dad. But anyway, war's war. Wars. Don't want a war. You really don't. You don't want a war. So I was always that, so I made supervisor. I was put in charge of things. Even in the jail, I was in charge of stuff. I think my funnest thing in the jail was leading guitar jam and doing comedy night. Guitar jam was music therapy. I put on inmate concerts amongst themselves. And comedy night was, hey, you guys don't know how to laugh. Let's show you some old comedy like George Burns or the Three Stooges or something. And people were rolling on the floor laughing. I need a little humor here, especially locked up like this. And, anyway, I have to pour out myself because the only way I can keep my sanity is not to escape pain or anything like that. It's in my it's in my that's how God designed me. When I came back from all this, I had my pride knocked out of me when I started ministering. I had to have that. When I got knocked out of me, things really started happening. And I had to learn that lesson. And you don't let any of this go to your head. You're responsible and you take the responsibility for people and teach them what they need to learn and how to get through life and navigate life. And sometimes you have to grieve with me to learn that. Maybe you can get some help yourself, just like Kenneth said. Like he said here, learning and watching you through this is very, very, very valuable. Many people have said they got more out of this than me wailing and crying and stuff. I'm not doing it to make people feel sorry for you or exploit you in any way. And I thank you, Luke, Dode, and Ellie, for bringing this up because I asked God same thing. Makes me wonder how Noah or Jeremiah feels when they tried warning and preaching. Well, and I can tell you about Jeremiah. I can tell you about Isaiah, how they felt because God told them. He said, they ain't going to listen. This is the Brian paraphrase. They're not, go tell these people these things, but they're not going to listen to you. And you're like, huh? Okay, I'll tell them because they understood God's justice. He always tells you, gives you opportunity to repent. He knows that the vast majority will not, but he does know there is a remnant that will. He's after the remnant. The Lord tests the righteous, even before they were made righteous by the blood covenant of Christ. He tests. Think about it. I won't go any more detail than that. Think Genesis chapter 3. Just think all that. And the Lord will speak to you and put it together in your own mind for you. I know he will. Well, I can tell you because I was feeling the same way. Lord, they're not listening. What do I do? And he brought me to Jeremiah, and I read the passages in Jeremiah, and it was like, I don't think they felt too good about it, but they obeyed anyway because they understood something because God made it plain to them what he was doing. So shall we all, as they say. Yeah, they really missed the woke opportunity with the Adar the elf. Yes, they did. They could have named him Gator. uh, you have to watch the series, folks, to understand that. The segment, I binge watched all three today. I'll watch it again, probably again, because got more out of it than probably most people because I understand what's being said. Um, so far, no woke stuff, none. It's just good versus evil thing. Is you can rest your mind. Now, if it goes woke garbage and um, the seven merry dwarves or something, I will stop watching it. But it doesn't look like it's going that direction. You know, you got Poppy and I can't remember the name. And Nora. Nora's 100% girl, and Poppy's a chunky guy. Little hobbits. Let's see, who is the stranger? Is it Gandalf or is it Saruman? I have no idea. I think it might be Saruman. I think he comes first, and Gandalf the Grey will come later. But I don't know. That's just for people who watch the series. Everyone's speculating. You haven't had a show like that makes you speculate and talk about it. Not since the remake or the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, but they did a little woke stuff in there. But they kept the storylines good versus evil. Anyway, okay. Yeah, Jesus mentioned how the Queen of Sheba and the men of Nineveh would testify against the Pharisees who rejected him. Absolutely. It's called the courts of heaven, the real courts of heaven, not the fakey stuff. There's some bad teaching on that. There are real courts, but it's a lot different than and how it's kind of presented. And the Lord would love to see a little correction on that, but that's the person has to come to terms with how to correct it on their own. And once they're corrected, everything is restored to that person financially, whatever they invested in it. As the Lord told me, He's that willing to forgive. He said it this way: He can restore King David. There, and it depends on how far they're into it. There is a cost, but He will restore you. Okay. Yep, I'm saying some sobering and real stuff. Yep, so I'm just learning another tough life lesson myself. Okay, what is this one? Davidson, did you ever research the flat Earth? Okay, and you said here keeps your mind busy, super interesting. Since the flat Earth people come from Fort Collins, yeah, I discovered the Earth is just like the Bible says. It's a globe. It's round about. The circumference. The Lord walks the circumference of the Earth, round, circular. Said that, before they had telescopes, mathematically proven. So, yeah, that's as far as I go with the flat Earth. I don't want to offend anybody, but the Earth ain't flat. So, there might be a flat Earth dimension. Maybe you can hang on to for that. That's another spiritual dimension we may not be aware of. But what do I know? I'm into physics. Could be. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Did I ever encounter bears while hiking up in Canada? Up by where is that nice little town with that hotel? It's in Ontario, not Ontario. It's where is that place? It's just north of Glacier Park, Montana, whatever province. And there's a little town up there. I can't remember the name. My brain's not working too well. Some grizzly bears up there, but we saw them from a distance. And we walked back when someone said there got grizzlies on the trail, so everybody's heading back quickly. The closest ones we've been to, I've seen them in I've seen more bear in the Smoky Mountains than I have in Colorado. We've seen them quite often up there in the Smokies, but here we see them once in a while. And our closest encounter was my wife was in front of me. We're coming down the Rocky Mountain National Park, southern entrance. Sand Beach Lake was one of our favorite hikes. And walking back down, coming back down, we're getting near the last mile and a half of the trail. It's like a 7 mile or more trip there and back. And we're coming back, and um, I saw these black shapes jump in front of my wife, and she jumped, and there were two little cubs, and Mama Bear was down just below there, and we backed off and got out of there and just prayed that they wouldn't come after us, and Mama didn't come after us, and that was scary. We were that close. The Lord protected us. Mountain lions, yeah. Walking along and come up to a fresh kill, we have to get out of there quick. And then we came to another area. We heard this. It was something making a real strange noise, but it made the hair stand up on your back. It wasn't a growl like you think a mountain lion would. And I found out that they don't growl, but if you get too close to their kill, anywhere near their kill, they kind of hack at you, or they hack. It sounds like a cat bark, and that's like I can't even replicate it. So we looked it up, and we were getting close to the kill. So we backed out of there and told my wife to go ahead of me. And all I had was some sturdy rocks. That's all I could use. And that thing followed. I don't know where it was. I could hear it. Followed me down, but she got far enough ahead so she could be safe. And then it didn't come after me, thankfully. But I lost it after a little bit when it realized we weren't a threat to its kill. And so that was on, what is the name of that mountain? Crozier Mountain outside of Leveland. Up, you get on the trail at along the roads in Glen Haven, and we got on at the part the Glen Haven area is the shortest part of the trail. Nice hike, but lots of mountain lions. So yeah, we had quite a few. A moose. Again, Sand Beach Lake is a little wild. They call it Wild Basin for nothing. So we're walking down the trail on the side of a hill, and we're eating our lunch, taking a snack, and it's real steep on either side of us, sitting on a rock. We usually do that. My wife looked up and said, "Moose." I looked up. Oh my gosh, there's a moose coming right at us. So we scrambled. I told her, "Go up the hill fast," and we got up and put us up between some um, big thick tree, and that moose stopped below us, snorted, looked at us, and said, "I ain't going up that hill," and ambled on down. I mean, if we went down the trail, he would have charged us. But if we go up where it's super steep, most likely they're not going to come at you because he can't do his thing. He'd fall over. He knows that, and he had little teeny antlers growing out of his. He was getting it was a season when their antlers were growing out, and he was all covered with fuzz. It's like the goofiest looking thing I ever saw. How they snort and stomping their foot when they're seeing you, and told my wife, "Don't move, stay behind the tree, don't move." And we were going to go up higher because we had by that time we got our breath. If he came up, we would. It was very loose gravel. He would have a hard time traversing where we went up. And yeah, so it's some of our wildlife and bear encounters, just a few. Mosquito encounters go with the territory. That's why you carry DEET with you. Well, thank you for the kind words. When you're ready, you embrace those places and memories. They were part of you. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I will. These are some folks that I will talk about later, but not now. You see, I'm dealing with stuff in the occult world, and just there's some unsavory occultists out there. Just be aware of that. Some I know who they are, and some I don't. A lot of them I don't, but I know they're doing things because they reveal it to you in different ways. Okay, I just won't get out. Talk about that later. That's what I'm talking about. They're conjurers, and they're open about their sorcery and stuff like that, and they practice this stuff. That's who I'm talking about. So just fireside grace, just keep me in your prayers because that's who I'm dealing with. And you should know that because you're under these people's guns too. It's probably some of the same people. Probably some they know you, but they don't know me, but they do it to me anyway. Okay, yeah, it's easy to brainwash people with smooth brains and no grooves. Never mind. And yeah, war is terrifying. Okay, and we go down here. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, thanks, Davidson, for sharing about the flat earth and stuff. I mean, I'm just glad people are sociable with you. And we need to be kind to everyone, needs to be kind to each other. And I appreciate Davidson coming on with his candor and sharing his stuff. And so, with that, appreciate you all. I'm going to go ahead and get off here and get ready to see where my relatives are that flew in last night, my nieces and stuff. We have another relative coming in any day, any minute right now, driving from Minnesota. That's they're coming to my sis, my wife's oldest living sister. So anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Again, I want to end it and just put this back up. Let you know, so when I turn the camera off, the camera stays on. You don't have to stare at me. That's what I'm doing. And so I'd rather have you look at something like this. And us with Charles Lawson, my wife hiking out in the mountains, hiking in the Smokies again, going across a bridge, down in Pigeon Forge, and this unique photograph that I thought I ruined. I didn't know how. When I took this, I said, why is it all fuzzy? I was going to throw away and delete this, but I kept it. I never deleted it. I thought it was ruined. I took the picture out of the same camera, other places and other things, but only around this spot it did that. Everywhere else, it's crystal clear afterwards, so there's no smudge on the lens of the camera.